For the next panel, it's going to be Ordinals, the catalyst for Bitcoin evolution. And yeah, I would love to call our lovely speakers in the room. Okay, let's
Is this
go.
working?
Let's do this. Are you guys started already or not? It's we're gonna have lunch soon, so bear with us for like maybe less than 2 hours, and everybody can have lunch. Let's begin. So I would love to start with a little bit of introduction. So maybe you could tell us who are you, what do you do, and a one-liner about the project that you're working with.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Brian Loughlin. I go by Bruffstar on the interwebs. My company's called Ordinalsbot, and we were the first ever inscription service on Bitcoin. Basically, it's quite difficult to inscribe ordinals, and we basically made a drag-and-drop interface to make it really easy for people, and then built out an API, and we've been basically building a lot of infrastructure and APIs to allow, keep it easy and make it easy for people to build on Bitcoin.
Hi, I'm Carol. I work at Gamma, which is one of the lead Ordinals marketplaces and Stacks NFTs marketplaces. I'm lead operations for Gamma, and I'm also a fine artist.
Hello everyone, my name is Zeth. I'm the founder and CEO of Ors Games and a project called BitBoy. We're the first, I would say, GameFi experiment on Bitcoin ordinals. It started out in March of 2023, and now we are building the world's first gaming hardware device on crypto called the BitBoy. It stands for Bitcoin Game Boy, and it allows you to play games inscribed onto Bitcoin as ordinals and also earn Bitcoin assets like runes tokens and ordinals, etc.
Amazing. My name is Jan. I'm with Xverse, the leading wallet for Bitcoin ecosystem. I hope that you guys are familiar, or you guys already have your app or your extensions. If you have obviously any questions, you can reach out to me anytime. Beyond that, I also host the Ordinal Show, the #1 podcast about everything ordinals and in general Bitcoin innovation. And I would say that in general, kind of contributed quite a bit to building this ecosystem around ordinals, and we have been in it since day one. So super excited to be here, guys.
Well, thank you for joining us today, guys, and we have a beautiful audience over here that you can ask questions later. Let's begin with the basic, right? So basic, what is ordinal in your own little words? If you're gonna explain it to my mom, for example, what is it?
Explain it to your mom,
Yeah,
might be quite
we need
difficult.
it, right? Or
maybe,
else-
maybe it's easier to explain to this audience than your mom. So essentially,
Where's your mom?
Yeah,
right,
we need adoption, Brobstar. How
Right,
can
okay,
we- yeah.
shit, that's a different question, man. But yeah, so this is NFT Fest, right? Obviously, we're all familiar with what NFTs are: digital assets, collectibles. Primarily happened on Ethereum, and then moved to Solana, different chains in 2021, 22. Basically, the same thing is now happening on Bitcoin. Casey Rodimer, the creator of Ordinals, created Ordinals to put artwork on Bitcoin. He himself is a generative artist in his spare time, as well as a really prolific developer. And yeah, wanted to make NFTs. Looked at Ethereum and said, yeah, I need to host this thing on like AWS or IPFS, and really didn't like that. He says, can I put it on Bitcoin? And he set out to do that task. It took him a few years to dabble and build the protocol. And he achieved it, and he launched it last January, essentially allowing people to inscribe, which he calls it, files onto Bitcoin directly into the transaction. So the data of every inscription, every ordinal, is actually on-chain comparatively to other NFT platforms or blockchains, where it's actually pointing, it's like more of a pointer to somewhere else, hosted somewhere else. And those links that are hosted there could be dead in 10, 5 years, they could all be dead. So your bag of NFTs could just be a bag of broken links, basically. And that's where I fell in love with ordinals, because this stuff is like on-chain forever. As long as Bitcoin's around, these things will be available and accessible. And that opens it up to actually being not just for NFTs, but it's actually the world's most secure and decentralized data storage as well. When you think about it, you can put any file format, any data, any bytes into a Bitcoin transaction, and it'll be there forever. So it's completely censorship resistant, amazing, and we all love it.
Okay, that was a let me ask my mom if she get it, but I would want to move
I
to
would,
Carol.
I would simplify it, okay?
Simplify it. I would
Brav-
need to simplify
Brav
this.
really,
It was
he knows his thing, okay? But let's simplify it.
a bit too long, I think.
Ordinals or inscriptions, like basically you need to spend your Bitcoin to put data on chain forever. That's it. And
Okay.
it can be any kind of data, as you said, but this is kind of how I look at it. Like you have to spend Bitcoin, which is something that people don't like sometimes, but you have to spend Bitcoin to put any kind of data on chain.
Great, great. What about you, Carol? What's your take?
I think that's still a bit complex for my mum.
Yeah, okay, I want to hear
yeah.
this. I think Carol knows it. I want to
Like,
hear
if I'm
Carol's
explaining
explanation.
to Bitcoin, well, blockchain people, what they said,
Yeah.
but if I'm telling my mum just Bitcoin NFTs, like she now understands.
NFTs?
Yeah. Well, I taught her.
Amazing.
Did my best.
My mom doesn't.
So yeah, I would go with that. I would say Bitcoin NFTs different from regular NFTs
Yeah.
because they're 100% on chain,
Yeah.
and there are limitations that you don't really have
Yeah.
with other NFTs that have smart contracts.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't tell her about smart contracts.
Okay. And what about you, Zed? Closing.
If it's really from my mother,
Yeah.
I would tell her Bitcoin is digital gold, right? Ordinals is digital jewelry. Then she'll get
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, next question. So we simplified it right now, and now I'm gonna be more a little technical. So ordinals actually was the catalyst for like the Bitcoin renaissance, right? It's like one of the few key pieces that moves the narrative. So what was about it ordinals that brought the change to Bitcoin?
It didn't just bring change to Bitcoin, it brought users to Bitcoin, it brought action to Bitcoin, because before Ordinals last January, Bitcoin was really a static chain. Everything was happening on other chains, and you only had a couple of payment transactions happening basically on Bitcoin. Whereas comparatively now, it's like made a huge fee market. So the impact on Bitcoin has actually been massive, not just from the fees, but also from we've got builders now in the space, you've got investors in the space, you've got all sorts of marketplaces and wallets and tooling. This just didn't exist, before January 2023. So that's the biggest impact I can see.
Okay, anybody else?
I would add that it brought artists
Of
to
course, yeah.
Bitcoin.
There's a lot of artists in the audience, a few photographers this morning.
Nice.
Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you guys? What do you think? It's like the
Yeah, I think, well, your question was what it brought to Bitcoin
Yeah.
or like stuff like that. I mean, all of those things that you guys mentioned is true. I think, ultimately, I really like to look at is the catalyst for like so many other things that happen on Bitcoin afterwards because, obviously users, but also investors and kind of just even like putting really attention back to Bitcoin, right? Which is super important because, then things can actually start to happen and, people can raise money to build their companies and, actually artists get attention so that people want to collect their art and stuff like that, which really we didn't have on Bitcoin that much before, right? And so it was really that paradigm shift.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I think in crypto in general, nowadays, we see a lot of different projects doing the same work over and over again, and it's repetitive, and it's not economic, and there's a lot of general waste of resources poured into everyone just trying to reinvent the wheel because they want to build a chain of their own. They want to suck over the liquidity and the dev communities for a particular ecosystem. If Bitcoin was able to do, because Bitcoin is the #1 oldest mother chain, if Bitcoin was able to have the functionality that a lot of the other current newer smart contract-based chains have, then they wouldn't need to have all these developers who left Bitcoin or went on other chains to build because Bitcoin was not able to build with these functionalities. Then we would have a more efficient ecosystem whereby the end user understand what Bitcoin is and would like to invest in Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, and a development community to be able to deliver products that have the functionalities that already exist, that are going to exist on the more smart contract chains. It's just more efficient ecosystem in general, in my view.
Nice. And now let's do a hot take, right? So then he brought it up, smart chain. So do you think, so ordinals, it brought like Bitcoin to the front, right? So it increases like the network fees, everything basically for Bitcoin. There's a lot of competition now with miners. But my question for you is, do you believe you do everything on the base layer, or do you feel like there's a positioning for layer 2s on Bitcoin? What's your stance on it?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of layer 2s. I mean, I think there's always a place for them. What I'm really impressed with is what we've been able to do on layer 1 already. Like, we've really pushed the boundaries of Bitcoin and what's possible. There's no smart contracts there. But, you know, what's everyone's suddenly realized is that actually Bitcoin natively has amazing technology built into it. So they've got things like PSBTs, which are passively signed Bitcoin transactions, where you can essentially craft a transaction on one side and then put it out into the universe, and then anyone else can fulfill that transaction and complete it. That technology is what's linchpinning the whole marketplace economy on Bitcoin right now. So yeah, push the L1 to the max as much as you can. But you know, fundamentally, Bitcoin is slow. It's 10-minute block times. There's limitations with transaction size. So it's not like you can't build the next amazing, like, you know, 3D metaverse there. You know, like, it's not got to be that. But it should be long-term storage. It should be like for the collectibles, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, layer 2s will have a place. The layer 2 conversation, in my mind, has to really circle around security and obviously trust, right? So we need to like take away the trust element. It should be as much as we can. The assets should be as safe as they can. If you're bridging, then what does that bridge look like? Is it a completely custodial, trusted bridge thing? And then maybe don't use that L2. Like, you know, so really look into the technicals and don't just YOLO in and send your
Which
Bitcoin.
projects are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I don't want to name
Which
and shame.
project is it,
I'm not
you know?
naming and shaming anybody, but yeah, like don't YOLO in and send some guy your 10 Bitcoin because he's promising you this amazing L2, you know.
Chain shaming. I love it. New term.
Yeah, you know, I entered Web3 through Stacks, which is an L2 for Bitcoin. Stacks holds a special place in my heart, of course. They were my first NFTs as an artist. They were like the first community in Web3 that I joined. So, like, to me, ideally, they work together, right? We have Bitcoin for, again, as an artist, like the truly valuable art that I want to inscribe and know that it will be there forever. But then again, I can't inscribe high quality files for my work personally. Like, I can't compress them that much, or I can't afford to like inscribe something massive, and I don't know a miner either. So ideally, I can, you know, there are trade-offs as an artist. It's like, how much are you willing to give away when it comes to file compression, decentralization, etc., to pick, like, do you want to use an L2 or do you want to use Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think there too, scaling Bitcoin in general makes a lot of sense. It just depends on if you view that you should be scaling Bitcoin from just the layer 1 to pushing the boundaries there, like what you know, the Taboo Wizard team are pushing with Opcat, with BIP 420, or if you are a believer that layer 2s would make more sense. I'm of the view that I think general purpose chains in trying to scale the whole chain or take activities away from like the base layer and move them all to layer 2 doesn't really make that much sense to me, because you're effectively trying to take all the activities away from the base layer, in which case, what is the point, right? And we see that happening a lot with the Ethereum layer 2s, I feel. But I think like purpose specific, so if you have a specific use case, like what we do in gaming with GameFi, or something for DeFi, something for a very specific use case, and then you customize the chain in all aspects to fit that certain use case, and you make a scaling solution tailored towards that, and then you market it towards that ecosystem or that particular market or industry, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think we can see a lot of those verticals start happening in this cycle. There's blockchains focus on more like NFTs, more on education, more on specific business-facing use cases. I think that will make more sense than just general purpose chains.
Got it.
Yeah, I think all great points. You know, to me specifically, I am super excited about Opcat, you know, because I think it's going to make all of these L2s actually way better. Because right now there's a lot of trust assumptions that you have to make if you want to do something on those L2s that exist today. And I think with Opcat, it's actually going to alleviate this kind of problem that may push more Bitcoiners to actually be willing to use those L2s. Because right now, not many Bitcoiners are really excited about L2s.
Can you explain to us, to audience, for example, me, what is Opcat on a high level?
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, like I'm maybe not the most technical person here, but how you can think about it in simplistic terms, what's actually going to happen with OpCAD, which is kind of, it's an opcode. It's like, you're adding certain things to the Bitcoin script so that you can actually program more things with Bitcoin. And actually, it's going to allow for instance, with the L2s, it's going to allow for trustless and permissionless bridges, right? Which is something we don't have right now. Because all of the L2s that, either were here or, some other people are building elsewhere, it's always you need to trust that team because you're sending money to a multisig. And some multisig is just one person controlling it, and some multisig is maybe a federation or maybe multiple parties controlling it, but it's still multisig, right? And so I personally don't like that as a Bitcoin user, right? Like I don't like to trust somebody else with my Bitcoin. I would never send a lot of money into a multisig, even though like I like you as a friend, but like just from a principle standpoint, like I don't want to do that, right? And so, with OpCAD, this is gonna disappear. Obviously, again, you're probably gonna see still a lot of scammers. We're still gonna see a lot of people that are gonna rack. OpCAD doesn't solve that, but at least there's gonna be the permissionlessness and the trustlessness that I send my Bitcoin somewhere and I can withdraw it anytime. I don't need Zeph permission for that, And so I think that's something that I'm super excited about. Again, is it gonna happen tomorrow? Probably not. Is it gonna happen ever? I think so. I think we have seen so much kind of push in the community. And actually what makes me so bullish on it is that it's not just the Ordinals people telling everybody, oh yeah, we should do OpCAD, we should fork Bitcoin, right? It's actually people that are the OG Bitcoiners, that are the OG Bitcoin builders, like, Blockstream guys and Adam Back and all of these guys, they're actually advocating for that as well, because ultimately it's gonna make their applications way better, way safer, and you're gonna be able to do a lot more stuff with them. And so, when it comes to L2s, I'm just super excited about this development. And maybe to that point, like of course L2s have their place, right? I do believe so. But right now, when we look at the applications that we have with Ordinals, which is digital art, I definitely don't want to have my digital art on L2. Like I want to have it on L1. Right, because it makes it kind of more valuable, more prestige and stuff like that. So I think L2s are probably going to have a slightly different, use cases and kind of what is going to be built with them. But again, that may evolve as well in like 3 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen?
Can I touch on it as well?
Yeah, of course,
I'm
definitely, man. It's
also-
your time to shine. It's your guys' time
Thanks,
to
man.
shine.
Thank you so much. I'm also really pumped about OpCat as well. And, the panel has evolution in the name. And yeah, OpCat will open up more doors and it evolves Bitcoin as a blockchain. It's not an L2, right? This OpCat thing is a fundamental change to Bitcoin. However, a fundamental change in the way it doesn't change anything, breaking it, it's a soft fork basically. And I think that it's fair to say that this conversation would not even be happening if it wasn't for Ordinals. I mean, this is called Ordinals Brussels. This panel wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for
100%.
Ordinals. But I think Bitcoin would still be static and stuck, and it would be a bunch of maxis just like arguing with each other constantly on Twitter, and there's just nothing progressing forward. Ordinals has hyperdrive Bitcoin into this new phase of building, opening up conversations about OpCat, which, by the way, already was on Bitcoin. OpCat's an old opcode that had to be removed because of an exploit, but Taproot fixed it. So now we can bring it back, and it's got to unlock so much more functionality. It's such a primitive, simple thing, but it'll unlock if-else conditions on transactions and stuff. So it's got to be really, really exciting. But yeah, it wouldn't be possible without this Ordinals push,
Yeah, it comes down to we brought attention to Bitcoin, right? And we're shining the line on the light what's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and also what is possible and what is not possible with Bitcoin. And because you have all those users and you have all those investors pushing in the same direction, then these things can happen. Because we're not the ones that started the OpCAD or the opcode or software conversation, right? These things have been happening in Bitcoin forever. It's not that this is the first soft fork of Bitcoin ever.
Amazing. I'm gonna take something from what you said, Brovstar. You said hyperdrive the craze, right? So my next question is a bit of a hot take. So is it Ordinals just a hype, or is it similar to the NFT craze? You know, you see in like the NFT craze back in 2021, everybody was talking about NFTs, right?
100%.
And if you look at it now, nobody's talking about it. I mean, nobody even wants to mention it. on
Feels
the
like
re-
Ordinals are
Everyone's
dead,
talking.
no?
Ordinals are not dead, man.
Yeah,
I don't
what's
think
your take on
everybody's
it?
talking
So
about it.
is it hype? Yes. Is it like one of those hype and going to, no? It's hype forever, basically. Like it's got to be the best thing ever. I mean, I was at NFT NYC and like, dude, NFTs are dead, bro. Like ordinals are where it's at. Like, you know what I mean?
I guess they have
was a
the
hot take.
value you give them, so who knows? Like, hopefully
Yeah.
they stay. I would love for them to
Yeah.
be a hype forever.
Yeah,
Who knows? Let's make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah, just judging by the fact that, here at NFT Fest in Brussels, we have an Ordinals Brussels panel,
Yeah.
where, like that's, and you'll see there's Ordinals events at every single NFT event in the coming months. And that was not the case just a year ago. So at the growth rate of Ordinals, we went from no inscriptions to, what is it, like 80, 78 million inscriptions in just a little over a year. And the innovation on what Ordinals are able to achieve has evolved pretty rapidly in the past year. Right? And then there's going to be, it's attracting a lot of builders to come over from all over the entire crypto ecosystem. First from Solana, and then from Ethereum, and then now, and then a bunch of people came over from Stacks, and it just, we were discussing this off stage just before this panel, that within Ordinals, it certainly feels like that people are working together for a greater good of some sort, much more so than in some other ecosystems, where oftentimes, whether you're a project founder or you're just a creator, you feel very siloed. I certainly felt that way when I started out at ETH Degen, right? It certainly felt that a lot of the times the projects were in competition against each other for attention, for liquidity. You definitely have that because once you're in a secondary market with any asset trading, it is oftentimes a zero-sum game because that's how value is exchanged within any trading, any asset that can be traded, or any marketplace. But within Ordinals, there's an element that all the inscriptions are on one tapestry, so to speak. Right? Every single inscription is in one serial. And all inscriptions are made out of the same quote-unquote material, Bitcoin sats. And whatever you're building, and because of recursion, whatever you're building can be leveraged by someone else down the line. So there can be new arts created by leveraging the art you have created. And the fact that, inscribing any data onto Bitcoin costs, and you have to be serious about what you're building to pay for those fees to inscribe something on chain. We were just talking last night with Brovstar. Like I think there were like 100 million Ethereum NFTs in a given month being created in the hype of the NFT cycle. You don't get 100 million ordinal in a month, right? We're still at 70, 80 million today because it costs money. It costs Bitcoin. The cost makes it more valuable. And all the elements I just talked about, I think, bring the community together much more so than building anywhere else. And I think that's the most attractive thing about building on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think certain ordinals are definitely dead, and they're not coming back. Like,
Which
guys,
ones?
be careful. There's a lot of ordinal collections that you're probably never ever gonna see in the charts. But I'm just looking at the volume because I'm always like curious. I was actually on the plane from Hong Kong. I just landed like 2 hours ago, so I didn't catch up with everything. But I'm just looking at the volumes, and if you look at NFTs across all chains, we still see Bitcoin ordinal collections in top 10. And it's interesting, right? When you compare Bitcoin ordinals that have only been around for basically 1.5 years, much more I would say kind of junior in the game of NFTs and like in the game of, having an ecosystem around it, I think it's still pretty good, right? Obviously, it's cyclical. And I think right now what we're going to see is that like as NFTs maybe are not going through a great period in general, because NFTs are kind of down across chains. You know, the volumes, the prices, everything is kind of down. Obviously, ordinals are also going to be down because people look at ordinals as Bitcoin NFTs, and so they kind of put them in the same bucket. But I think as we grow further, as we have more stuff happening on Bitcoin, I think that correlation is not going to be, you know, 1-to-1. You know, and so I think that, you know, it's for sure it was a hype. You know, I think it's pretty natural. But again, I also look at data. If you look at the Dune Analytics data, I think exactly 1 year ago, I think we started in July. That was the first time when ordinals were proclaimed dead. And the volumes even today are like 10x higher than you know, when we were actually kind of entering that period of ordinals are dead. Before, obviously, it went to zero, but like we had actual volumes, you know, before that in the first hype cycle. And if you compare those numbers to the numbers today, those numbers are, you know, actually smaller, like meaning that today we're like 10x higher than during the very first hype cycle of ordinals. And so, you know, I remain bullish. You know, I think that there's so much more we can do. Obviously, I think the market is gonna recover hopefully soon. But I really think, you know, what do we have compared to other ecosystems here is that it's Bitcoin, right? And everybody knows Bitcoin, and you know, more and more stuff is gonna be built here, and that's only gonna benefit all these like, you know, OG things related to Bitcoin ordinals, you know, and runes and everything else. So, you know, I'm just super positive, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody in the panel is super positive about ordinals. They're very bullish. So my question is, so during the NFT craze, a lot of retail people went into NFT, right? Because you see the big brands coming in. You see like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, like everybody was going on NFTs. Even SNL did a skit on NFTs. Do you
Yeah.
feel like it's gonna happen the same thing with ordinals?
100%.
What's your take on it?
Yeah, we're already seeing it already.
Example, Brobster. I need concrete example, or
I'll
else,
give you- I'll give you
or else
examples, I'll
for
give
me
you
it's a
examples.
Facebook news.
Let me just like look back a little bit at 2021. Like I don't think any big brand did a great job actually. Like, Nike did really well partnering with, you know, Bored Apes and things like that, and Adidas, sorry, did really well. And then so there's a couple of big like clothing brands did pretty well, but the worst one in my opinion was like Porsche. Like such a huge institution and did this shit NFT basically. Like they were all the same, and it's like it was just a waste, like a complete waste. So yeah, that kind of left. Of course, I aped into it, right? So that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But in Bitcoin, you know, as with Ordinals Bot, we've been seeing a lot of inbound with amazing projects. Like me and my other co-founders sometimes got off calls and saying like, "What is this life like?" Who, you know, like, I can't really name drop, but you know,
we need some alpha.
yeah.
You know?
Okay. So what I can tell you is we're bringing one is Elvis, so Elvis Presley. So
Ooh, let's go.
yeah. So the official Elvis estate basically.
Do you have your own token?
No, I have a token. Ordinals has a token, but this is very much artwork. So the artist is called Joe Patricio. He's like a verified artist from the Elvis estate, and one guy who basically brought it to us and says, "Hey, I have like the rights to this guy's art. Can we put it on chain?" So we're working with that, and it's all like officially stamped by like Elvis estate, so it's like proper IP. And he's also got other connections. So we are seeing a lot of interest of big name artists and IPs coming to Bitcoin. And I think it's because it is Bitcoin. And you know, maybe your mum knows Bitcoin, but she maybe doesn't know Solana. You know what I mean? For example, so everybody, my granny knows Bitcoin is what I like to say. You know, everyone knows Bitcoin. And I think that that's probably like a great opener for people to say, yeah, you can put your artwork on Bitcoin. It's like okay, let me discuss it and talk about it. Maybe if people are already on the fence about doing something in Web3. But the Bitcoin conversation might be the thing that pushes them over the edge to actually do something.
Yeah, Carol, what about you? You work a lot with artists, so probably you know some.
Yeah, I feel like it's not. I mean, it will definitely happen with big luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and everything, but not just them. Like we had a partnership not too long ago with Sotheby's, which is one of the most renowned in the whole world traditional auction houses. Christie's as well has a Web3 pole now, and like. I feel like these kind of activations with traditional art platforms are going to bring a whole lot of new things to Bitcoin as well. Like if we bridge the traditional art world with names like Sotheby's with the ordinals world, it's going to be amazing.
Did Beeple release an ordinal already?
Not
Sorry?
yet. TBD.
TBD. Beeple.
Beeple. He has not, but he definitely knows about Ordinals. We have met him many times at
Been
different
shelling it hard
events,
to him.
and we have been shilling him very, very hard. I think he was like actually even considering doing something in the
Yeah.
previous hype cycle of Ordinals, but I'm actually happy that it didn't happen because it felt forced.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to happen organically sooner or later. Come on, like, we don't have to really spend a lot of money trying to push somebody into something that they don't know anything about. I think they need to learn, they need to observe, and when it's the right time, they're going to do it anyways because this is Bitcoin. Come on, like all of these OGs, all of these crypto guys, even though they maybe build their fame around Ethereum or other chains, they all hold Bitcoin. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee that. And if not, then they should.
It's true.
Well, we have to think about like why do big brands want to work with NFTs to begin with, right? I think their big brands are not here to push the envelope in terms of technology or be innovators on crypto and Web3. Big brands are here to leverage the latest technology and the latest hype to deliver consumer products and consumer experiences to their end users. So they're trying to, and I would say they're trying less so to grab like a new market share from a new audience. They're more so trying to bring something exciting to their current existing user base, which is much, much larger than our addressable market. So we saw that last cycle with Ethereum NFTs. Nike, Adidas, a lot of brands came in through different projects, and we're going to see that with Bitcoin Ordinals for sure, 100%. Like for example, we're talking with Web3 brands, and then we're talking with sports teams in Web2 about doing a co-branded version of the BitBoy, and that's something that they want to see something new that's not in the last cycle that Ethereum NFTs did not achieve last cycle. They want to see what new experiences can we be bringing to end users. What are something that can get people excited about whatever they're building. So I feel like these are marketing. I feel like major brands are more so tools for the crypto industry to use as leverage to market to more people, and we can both benefit when the market conditions are in the right part of the cycle to be onboarding more people via this kind of I would almost call it like marketing campaign or like activations to get people to want to learn more and engage with crypto.
So Lionel Messi is soon to be an ambassador for BitBoy? That's what you're saying?
Not the alpha.
There's a lot of alpha
Drop
here,
the
guys.
alpha.
You know, they're like dropping. I think you have your own token as well.
No investment advice.
And no, not investment on us. Like my tweets, not a financial advice.
I just wanted
No,
to
I just
say-
want to, sorry, Brev, you want to comment on this? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the brands. With Ordinals themselves, you're not just limited to making a nice JPEG or something like that. Ordinals inscriptions actually, like I mentioned before, is any kind of data you can put on chain. So what we've been seeing is actually people have been inscribing HTML files with JavaScript, right? So like that powers the web basically. So anything you can do essentially on a website, you can bake into this collectible. You can't link externally, but you can link to other JavaScript inscriptions. So we've actually seen like almost applications being built as an inscription, which unlocks a lot of cool things. So if you're a brand or a big IP and you want to like Zeth said, like capture the hype basically and do some cool activation for your brand, you don't need to just get an artist and do like a static image. You can get an artist and make a generative artwork and make it interactive where it's an experience, and that's possible with Ordinals. You can make an experience as a collectible.
Perfect. So I have one last question, and then I want to open it to the audience, right? Because I bet they have a lot of questions for you guys. So this question, we need to keep it short, so then we can interact with them. So my next question is, you guys are very in the deep rabbit hole of Ordinals. You see things that we don't really see as an audience, right? So do you think is the use cases that will go far in the next coming months that you're super excited about that we don't really know?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, the application thing is actually pretty huge. So anything you inscribe is essentially out there for anybody to use. It's not gate-kept in any way. So if you inscribe JavaScript libraries, like let's say you inscribe React or you inscribe some other CSS library or whatever, that's now on-chain forever for anybody to use. So I think that there's been 70 odd million inscriptions now, and there's a ton of reusable stuff there. So I think that there'll be a lot of that coming now, I think, has got to be like, oh, what's already inscribed that I can use, and you save some money that way because you don't need to reinscribe everything, you know. And so there'll be this big, I think, composable boom happening on Ordinals where people are actually using a lot of the elements that are already there. We just seen the other day a guy called Jim.btc just released I think it was like an 8-minute song essentially on Bitcoin. Now, that sounds easy to do on Ethereum because, you know, you can just YOLO in and put it on any shitty server. But on Bitcoin, an 8-minute song on Bitcoin is pretty expensive. And the way he got around about that was he actually inscribed you wanted a short answer, by the way, but
Yeah.
he wanted to inscribe individual notes, individual beats and sounds, small little files, you know, and then he pulled them into this HTML file and built the song using these beats and made an 8-minute song with all these different beats really efficiently, you know.
I know Jem.
Yeah, so Jim's that's awesome. So just to say that, I think that's got to be a real unlock in coming where you can reuse all these things that are already on chain.
We can start, go for it.
Yeah. So I think I forgot the question. It's
The
fine.
question is, what is the thing that you're most excited about that on Ordinals, because that we don't really see, right? Because you
Thank
guys
you.
are like really deep onto it.
Yeah, I feel like there is a lot that we can do without smart contracts, which the absence of smart contracts on Bitcoin feels like a limitation to a lot of people. And, when you talk about NFTs with non-Bitcoin people, they're like, yeah, but there aren't any smart contracts. You can't do dynamic NFTs or that kind of stuff. And I feel like there is actually a lot more that we can do than we even realize at this point. And things like token gating, access, even gaming, to your point of like these
Like
big...
BitBoy.
Yeah, like there's a lot that we can do that we haven't explored yet, but I feel like something's gonna happen soon.
Exciting opportunities that you don't really see. Well, I don't know if you can see what's in my hand. So
He's
if
shilling
you
it, guys.
have a Game Boy that can play Bitcoin on-chain games and reward you Bitcoin token and sats and runes and ordinals, and also you can play any retro game from the Game Boy and the NES system all the way through the PlayStation 1 and earn points on those. They're off-chain, by the way. And you can also use it to mine Bitcoin via a lottery-based system. You have 1/400,000th of a chance of winning a Bitcoin block of 3.125 Bitcoin.
What?
And you also have a hardware wallet built in, so when you don't connect to the internet, it functions
It's my
as a
competitor.
wallet. We can talk after. All of these features packed up into one single device. I mean, that gets me pretty excited. And certainly, we felt the excitement from the general community, from like anyone in crypto, I feel like when they see it, they instantly get it. For people in Web2, I feel like our simplistic marketing term for them is just to play a game and earn Bitcoin. And that way, we felt like can onboard more people via gaming and Bitcoin. And in Brussels, in general, this time around with ECC, have a lot of gaming-related events. So I've been to a few of those, and it just feels like this cycle we're going to see a lot more high-quality games. Unlike last cycle, where there are a lot of games that were just copycat each other and only do it for farming purposes. But I think this cycle is going to be very different when it comes to Web3 gaming. It'll take a little bit of time. A lot of them are launching, whether it's a token or the actual alpha test of the game during better parts of the cycle in the next several months. But I think it's an area worth paying a lot of attention to.
Yeah, real quick, because we don't have that much time for the
I know,
audience,
right?
right? So I think ultimately there's going to be so much stuff happening on Bitcoin, but what is relevant for you guys in the audience? Like, first of all, start inscribing. The fees are low right now. That's the alpha. If you want to do something with Bitcoin, if you want to put some art on Bitcoin, if you want to put some files on Bitcoin, like do it now, because I feel like, again, at some point it's going to spike and it's going to be super expensive to move things around, even just simple Bitcoin transactions. So take advantage of that opportunity. And then, again, I'm just super excited for the community in general. I see a lot more people, coming still here, coming to these events, building interesting things. I think we're going to see a lot more companies announcing funding rounds very soon. I don't know if it's going to be this month, next month, but it's going to happen very soon, which is going to bring a lot more attention here again. And so, I think some sort of pump is coming, and
That's alpha.
it's guaranteed.
Definitely.
Okay.
And download Xverse wallet to do that. And
I mean, 100%.
Jan, do you
If you don't have Xverse, I cannot help you guys.
Do you recommend any inscription service for inscribing this stuff?
I mean, Ordinals Blog is the OG. Brav is
Thanks,
the
man.
best guy in the business.
Let's go.
Okay, we can take one or two questions from the audience, and then I will let one speaker answer it. You know, per
Let's go.
question. Let's
Yeah.
go. So who would love to ask questions to these guys? Come on, guys. There's one over there.
Yes. Yes, you could.
How
So
much? How much?
no, that's the thing. The library wouldn't need to pay for it, right? So you can actually offload the cost to Minter. So what you could do is you could create all the files, get all the files ready, and then basically just serve the files as people come to Mint. You know, so it's like you offload the cost to them. We're doing exactly this with actually Julian Assange's kind of project called Spartacus. So they've got 87,000 war records essentially. Instead of them paying it, what they've done is they've offloaded that. So basically, we have the files, and then when someone comes to the website and clicks Mint, we serve up a file. They pay the inscription cost, and it's done. So it's like crowdsourcing almost, you know. So yeah, I think large data sets would be absolutely amazing to explore and put on Bitcoin. Because listen, it's on Bitcoin forever then. So it's like absolutely amazing to like back up like libraries on Bitcoin would be such a cool idea. So yeah, prepare all the files and then basically crowdsource it.
I think to that point, I think this is actually a super interesting thing for anybody to explore. I think what you have to keep in mind is like, how do you actually build community around it? Like, how do you actually make sure that for me as a user that pays the inscription fee, like what is the value I'm getting? Is it the document itself, or is it some like additional stuff that I'm gonna be getting because I'm now part of your community? You know, I have certain access to something else, right? That's, I think, is very interesting, and like people should start playing around with these ideas.
Yeah, and it's one thing that I learned from what I kind of realized from the Spartacus project is that's essentially data, it's documents, boring documents nonetheless, right? But it's just text. So if you want to crowdsource something and you want people to like collect this text, then it's kind of boring, like Jan said. Why would you want to just have a lump of text in your wallet, right? So what I've realized is what we can do with HTML is I can actually like kind of embed the text somewhere behind the scenes, and then we can use that text to generate a cool piece of artwork. So you're giving the people who are doing it an incentive to actually collect the thing, but at the same time you're backing up the actual data. So it's a kind of win-win for everybody. The data gets backed up on Bitcoin forever, and the crowdsourcing, people get an actual collectible on their wallet, which could be anything. It could be generative art, it could be like a generative PFP, it could be anything, you know, around about the
I mean, this example is actually interesting right now, right? Because, you know, Julian Assange was just released, right? Or, you know, so I think it's like you're kind of owning piece of history. And if you're like really smart as a creator or as a facilitator, like you can actually like, you know, do a lot more stuff with that, right? So I think this is really interesting model. And like, I think people, companies, or like, you know, even like historic related places should explore that for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We can't take it because we're over time, but the lovely speakers will
You
be
can't take us anymore. You say, I can take it.
No, but the lovely speakers will be at the back. So we should give them a round of applause for that wonderful conversation about ordinals. So shout out to Bravstar, Jan, Carol, and okay, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. Plug in. What do you want to plug in?
I mean, he plugged too much.
Yeah.
He took
Yeah,
all
we
of our
get
time.
his 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, he has no
Yeah,
second, but thank you.
Yeah, go to ordinalsbot.com. Go to
Get Xverse, guys.
xverse.com/ordinalsbot, and then yeah, we're happy
And
to help.
check out Gamma.
Gamma.
Gamma.io. Let's
Please.
go.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.